Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the BNDF Innovation Lab. In our first two sessions, we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping engineering, entrepreneurship, and the future of technology. Today, we are shifting our focus from theory to practice. The question is no longer, will AI change the world? That question has already been answered. The real question is, how do individual, company, government, and entrepreneur actually use AI to create value? The discussion you are about to watch brings together leaders from Google, OpenAI, and NVIDIA. These organizations are not simply building AI technology. They are helping millions of people and thousands of organizations adopt them successfully. As an engineer and future entrepreneur, I want you to listen carefully. Don't only pay attention to the technology, pay attention to the mindset. Notice how these leaders think about solving problems before choosing tools. Notice how they focus on creating value instead of simply automating work. During this conversation, I want you to think about three questions. The first question, what problem in my work could AI solve today? The second, if AI make building software easier, what become the real competitive advantage? And finally, how can I use AI not only to become a better engineer, but also to build products that improve people's life? Remember, AI is not replacing creativity, it is amplifying it, right? The people who learn to work alongside AI will be the one who shape the next generation of innovation. Let's begin.
Thank you so much for having me. It's quite an honor to be here. My name is Andrew Badisco, Senior Vice President, Group Manager for Co-America Bank, now Fifth Third. So by a show of hands, who's heard of Fifth Third Bank? Oh, a few of you. Very, very good. Well, for those of you who have not heard of Fifth Third Bank, believe it or not, is the 9th largest bank in the United States of America. It's based in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's 167 years old. We are also the 5th largest commercial payment processor. We really punch above our weight because of the technology and fintech investments that Fifth Third has made. We're in the process of consolidating with Fifth Third. So you're going to see more and more of our names here in California. I come from Co-America Bank, where I've worked for 30 years, helping small, medium, and large-sized businesses grow and thrive here in California. So this last weekend, I was down in Palm Springs area and went and saw Jerry Seinfeld perform at Rancho Mirage. Yeah, and he had a whole bit on AI, and he was wondering, like, should we be scared? What's going to happen? I don't know. And so he said he goes on to AI and he searches on AI. Is AI a good idea? And what does AI say? AI says, I don't know. So today we're going to have a panelist that are going to tell us whether or not it's a good idea. So leading the moderation is Chad Seiler from KPMG. And our speakers are Yumbi Edelbayram from NVIDIA, Maddie Zazueta from OpenAI, and Henry Dang from Google.
All right. It is real. It's real, and it's awesome, and it's cool. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chad Seiler with KPMG. I'm really excited to be part of this panel with three of the most amazing companies in the planet. I mean, you've got OpenAI, Google, and NVIDIA here today, all in one place at one time, which is absolutely spectacular. We're going to step through a conversation here over the next few minutes around AI. We're going to start with sort of the diffusion of AI into the world. How are we getting out there into the hands of everyone? We're going to learn about that from a local perspective and a global perspective. We're going to talk a little bit about the value it's creating. There's a lot of conversations around, it's cutting costs, and that implicates employment and things like that, but the value that this is going to create for the planet is just stunning, and we're going to step through some of that today. And then we're going to click into the enterprise a little bit. All the business folks in this room that are really curious, what's going on out there in terms of enterprise adoption of AI, How's that going? How's that working? What's going to be on the horizon for the next several months and quarters as that plays out? And then we're going to step back and talk about the future, right? Where is all this going? Because at the speed of which this innovation is coming at us is just remarkable. But let's look in the next 6 to 12 months and kind of predict what might be happening. So let's jump in. Let's start local and really talk about what's been happening with the diffusion of AI. Henry, maybe we start with you. You've been at the center of AI for All, a program that the Bay Area Council has been leading with OpenAI and Anthropic and others. What does it actually mean in practice? What's happening with that program? What are the benefits that we've seen so far?
Sure, thanks so much, and good to be here. Thank you for having me. And a little bit about AI for All. I think this is apropos following the previous panel here. So AI for All was an initiative that we partnered with the Bay Area Council on, so thank you to their partnership. We also worked with OpenAI and Anthropic to really launch a program starting in San Jose where any resident of the city could access free, no-cost AI literacy and AI fluency courses through our different companies. And so the local government really partnered to help residents be aware of the programs, understands how it's potentially helpful in their lives or in their work. And then we partnered with the local library system, who people have access to in order to check out licenses to our courses and then check them back in. And so the initiative was really born to make sure that everyone has an opportunity around technology and around AI, and we're not leaving folks behind.
Awesome. Maddie, from your perspective, what's happening as you see AI get into the hands of consumers and then enterprises out there?
Well, I lead our programs and partnerships at OpenAI for the Global Affairs team, and that includes the OpenAI Academy, which is our flagship AI literacy program. And so I was really excited to work with Henry and the Bay Area Council team. Shout out to Kelly, who's here somewhere, I think, and help bring this to life. But I think that there's a lot of, at least with regular people, there's a lot of curiosity. They've heard about AI. Like, what is this thing? It sounds kind of scary. What does it mean for me on a day-to-day? And so what we've done through the OpenAI Academy and AI for All initiative is help demystify that a little bit and show people how they can use it in their day-to-day. And I think once you do that, it really opens the door for them. Like, otherwise, you don't know what you don't know. And so you want to start with experimentation. So then you can, what I tell people is that these trainings for us are not a way for you to turn you into a ChatGPT evangelist, no, by any means. It's like we want to help you understand what the technology is, what it is not, and how you, like I said, how can you use it in your day-to-day. And from there, hopefully give you the perspective and the insights and the skills to then decide whether you want to continue using it or how it should continue to shape society. I think on the enterprise side, we're moving from companies asking whether they should use AI to how they should use it. And they're experimenting more with what are the big problems that they're trying to solve. So looking forward to elaborating that.
Yeah, excellent. And Jambi, from a global perspective, you have a unique position at NVIDIA, seeing what's actually happening in the public sector, schools, and governments outside of the U.S. What are you seeing out there in terms of adoption of AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I'm in charge globally of our cities and local government business. So I sort of view everything from that lens. And I'll answer the question in two ways. One way to look at AI for All is for cities and local government agencies to provide benefits to citizens that address the largest needs for the largest population out there. And this is kind of the traditional mode. Cities offer services, they roll them out, citizens start using those services. But what we see, the amazing thing with AI that's happening is people are actually becoming, I wouldn't say developers, but not just consumers of technology. They're actually creating technology. So for example, there are cities where they've enabled their employees to actually go out and create applications, not just for themselves, but for their department and even for the public. There's other cities which have actually crowdsourced the creation of applications. So someone creates an application out there, for health or public safety or for infrastructure management. They actually have a mechanism by which people can vote on these applications and figure out which ones are going to be really useful for them in their daily lives. So this thing is taking, literally a form where rather than just consuming technology, rather than just consuming applications that the city makes available, people are actually feeling, enabled to actually create technology that's going to be useful for them.
Yeah, and I think to elaborate on that, I think what we're seeing across the board, I think in our respective roles, is that access is important, but it's not the end be all, right? You can hand somebody a tool, but that inherently is not going to create value. You need to teach them how to use it, teach them what they can do, and hopefully and thankfully we've been able to do that with the Bay Area Council through this AI for All partnership.
So Henry, you were talking about backstage building training and enablement to do what Maddie just said. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a little bit about the team that I represent. I lead our partnerships with public sector organizations and other employers for our initiative called Grow with Google, which really focuses on making sure that opportunities around technology are available to everyone. And piggybacking off of what Maddie was saying, it's been really inspiring seeing what individuals can then build. One of my favorite modules from our AI professional certificate that we launched in February was AI for app building. And so how do you use AI in order to build tools that you can use and others can use? And recently sat down with a panel of folks who had completed the certificate, and it was really inspiring to see what they were building. They were building applications to help get truck drivers home sooner. This was at Walmart, and so that was a large logistical challenge for them. Small businesses are unlocking a ton of value in being able to build applications that they might not have access to otherwise, or just to personalize applications for their business and then immediately turn that into ways that they can grow their business. And so I think being able to enable everybody to be a builder without necessarily that technical knowledge or that software engineering background, and being able to turn ideas into tools, I think has been really rewarding to see.
Great point. So let's transition there in terms of the value, the benefit to humanity writ large, right? That this is all enabling. Our most sophisticated clients at KPMG are the ones that think about how do we unlock value in the sense that our employees are more efficient, therefore they can do other things, smarter things, more interesting work to drive growth in the organization or create new drug treatments or whatever the things are that we're doing, versus ones that think, oh, I'm going to use this technology to reduce costs and cut labor. That's an absolute losing strategy in my perspective. But let's talk about that for a little bit. Maddie, starting with you, what are you seeing as you see OpenAI pivot from being a very dominant consumer business to now becoming a very dominant enterprise business in terms of the value potential there?
Yeah, I think as a company, asking yourself, how can AI save me money, how can it save me hours, is important. But I think the businesses that are seeing the most value from AI deployment are asking themselves, how can I improve the experience of the people that I serve? So you can think about that for an enterprise customer that might be able to offer better customer service. But I see that in the nonprofits and governments and small businesses that we serve as well. For a small business owner, what does it mean to get help with a marketing plan to level the playing field compared to a business that might have more resources so that he can serve customers better? What does it mean for a nonprofit to spend less time on paperwork or grant making and out in the community building relationships and serving clients and doing the things that are uniquely human? And for governments, what does it mean to deliver better services? I think that's the question to ask, and once you identify what that problem is or what you want to focus on, then you get a lot more than just cost savings. You get value, you get improved experiences, and I think that's a win-win for all.
Yeah, Jumbi, I think building on Maddie's comment around that, when I think about the state, local, municipalities, just the whole sort of public sector, the potential that this can create to create entirely new experiences for everyone in this room, everyone in countries around the world as a consumer of public services, the sky is the limit, right? And these organizations, they're not builders, they're buyers of this technology. They have limited budgets, but the potential is huge. Talk about what you're seeing around the world, around that, the opportunities and what's being unlocked.
Yeah, so I think in general, what we're seeing is two large buckets of opportunities and applications. One is around what people generally think of AI is applications built around large language models. And these are things like better citizen services. So you want to apply for your ADU. We actually have a partner that provides software that's reduced the time it takes to get that application approved from weeks to 2 days. Because AI checks everything, rather than cycling back and forth many times, you just get it done once. So it massively increases efficiency. But for me, personally, the most exciting applications are around what we call physical AI. So this is, what people experience in their daily lives out in the physical world. And a big application area there, which I'm sure is going to resonate with a lot of you guys, is traffic management. People don't realize that, now there are AI tools available that can actually coordinate lights across a city or across a region using AI to actually make traffic quicker, better, faster, but also to improve safety at intersections. I don't know if you guys have heard of Vision Zero, where, in the US at intersections, I think last year there were 43,000 fatalities, traffic accidents. And those can all be prevented. There is technology available to diagnose every intersection, every road, what the near misses might look like, so you can better time things to try and prevent that. So it has an immediate impact in people's personal lives. One of the cities, just to give you an example, that implemented sort of citywide traffic management, reduced congestion by 53%. So imagine the impact, not just on efficiency, people's mental states, but also in the environment. Because when cars are stopped for a long time, they pollute more. So I could go on, but I'll just stop there.
Henry, from your perspective, what do you, clearly you can talk about Waymos as well and the value that creates with AI, but what else are you seeing? You've got an incredible preview across consumers, across the enterprise, and what's happening with the deployment of Gemini and other technologies from Google worldwide. There's just really awesome things being done in the marketplace. Talk a little about what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think building off the physical AI point, I think one of my favorite examples is from Waymo, and this actually launched earlier this year. So Waymo's self-driving cars, they actually recently started reporting on potholes around cities. And so when you think about potholes, potentially a big issue depending on where you live. For me, biking down Market Street to the San Francisco office, there's quite a few little potholes, and I'm a little worried on my e-bike every time. But I think traditionally cities have relied on individuals who run into potholes to call their 311 number and report them. I think some of the challenge is, running into the potholes and then actually doing that reporting. And so what Waymo is doing is relying both on its physical sensors as well as its LiDAR systems to actually proactively detect those and then map back into an open source map on Waze so that cities and other agencies can tap into those and then hopefully fix those. And so that's a really good, I think, physical AI piece. And then in terms of my work, our team last year released an AI-powered career exploration tool called Career Dreamer. And so anybody can go access this, input their different experiences, education, their different interests, and what the tool is doing is actually on the back end matching from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and from Lightcast data to infer skills, which then helps individuals explore different careers that may be out there to create their own career identity statements and even draft personalized resumes and cover letters. And so we're working with workforce development agencies and other organizations to support students, veterans, job seekers out there to really understand more of what they bring to the table and then hopefully go land those awesome jobs for themselves.
If I could just add, I don't know if Mayor Mahan is out there, but they've actually put cameras in front of all the public vehicles to do exactly that, automated 311. Even generate a service ticket so it gets fixed before, someone has to report it.
Yeah, I don't know if Matt's still in the building, but we were talking when he was up here earlier on stage about, well, he needs to be using AI to solve these permitting problems because that is, AI is built for that for sure. let's click into the enterprise. I think most people in the audience work somewhere. If you're not, congratulations. If you're look good for you. But we and we're all at an organization that's adopting AI in some form or fashion. And many of the organizations in the world and in this room are struggling to diffuse this technology across the organization. They're struggling to identify ROI and quantifiable, measurable ROI. You can put your finger on, you can see it in the income statement versus just time and efficiency here and there. And there's only a small number of companies that are actually getting real enterprise value and doing really interesting things. I'm curious from the audience, from the panel, what are you seeing out there in terms of what good looks like in terms of adoption, but more importantly, what are the challenges that are very common and how are companies overcoming those? Maybe Maddie, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I think, like I mentioned earlier, companies are they realize they have to implement AI one way or another. And so that question about whether you should use it or not, we've kind of moving past it. And now, as you said, it's really about enablement. How do you deploy that across the company at scale and in a way that makes sense? And so we've seen a lot of progress in the last 12 months around guardrails and governance and how companies developing the policies in terms of how their employees should use AI. But now we're also moving away from companies creating specialized and centralized teams, specialty teams that know how to use AI, because that's great for pilots and things like that. But when you want to deploy at scale, you really need to deploy at scale across the company. And that includes AI literacy training. And so we're doing that with a lot of our major enterprise customers. Walmart is one that comes to mind. About almost a year ago, we announced this new initiative called OpenAI Certifications, which is very similar to what Henry and Google has been doing at Google. But certifications is our way of helping those enterprise customers, but also average people learn how to use AI. And what we're doing, and hope to finalize soon, is that the learning will actually happen and be embedded within ChatGPT to offer more of a customized learning experience. So if you're like, what the heck is prompting? Why am I not getting this right? Instead of going back through a video and trying to figure that out yourself, you can use chat to say, hey, chat, what am I missing here? Where are my weaknesses? Where can I improve? And so we're very excited about that because we think it's going to be a huge lever for enablement. I think the other piece that we're seeing is, and we're trying to help customers with, is also the infrastructure piece of it. And what I mean by that is that in order for your AI tools to work effectively, they really have to understand context and the systems that you operate and use within your company. And so how can we do that? And we are kind of helping answer that question for our customers through two recent initiatives that we announced. One is AI Frontiers, which will help you create that intelligence infrastructure to connect those systems together and help the model better understand what you do and provide more context. And then the other is what we call Deploy Co. And so that is going to be more focused on, again, that enablement piece is helping employees get started with AI, help them learn how to use AI, the guardrails, et cetera. And so I think deployment is where we're focusing on for the next couple of months.
Makes sense. Henry, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so actually I'll share some findings from some research that we did with MIT. We had a summit last fall to really look at, over the previous 2 years, what did enterprise adoption of AI look like at a number of different companies. And we essentially saw two different approaches for enterprise deployment. One was tops down, the other one was bottoms up. And the common thread was that a lot of pilots don't end up working out, but that's also pretty typical for any new technology rollout. And so there was this viral study of 95% of companies aren't seeing ROI from their AI pilots. And we think the number is closer to 80%, which is, I think, very typical based on this MIT group who had studied other technology rollouts. But back to the top-down, bottoms-up part, the tops-down approach is really trying to identify where are those functional areas and where are those key strategy pillars where I think this tool will play an outsized role. And so it's starting at that functional or objective level. We actually saw AI teams being embedded in the strategic planning process in some of these organizations where they're very intentional about, okay, so in customer service, we need to personalize more of our messaging, get more data in the hands of our customer service representatives, and so that is an area where we will deploy AI, we will measure it, we will get the financial ROI from there, and that was like very strategic, and so that was kind of one way. And then the other way that we saw was a lot of organizations were just launching Gemini licenses, Copilot licenses, ChatGPT licenses, right? And hoping that the best use cases would just bubble up organically. And that's a much slower process. It can work. But even then, really saw the outsized value concentrated within a smaller number, maybe 20% of those different pilots. And so in terms of the learnings there, it was, it is okay to also just launch experiments, but then also at some point to find which ones generated that outsized return, take those, scale those further, and then deploy them across the organization.
That makes sense. And then Jumbi, when you think about what you're seeing outside of the US in the public sector and otherwise, adoption, what's working, what's in the way, and what are companies or organizations doing about it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't really work with enterprises, so I'll talk from the public sector perspective. One of the key issues that a lot of public sector agencies are dealing with is the processes they have for procurement. Procurement processes in a public agency could take months or sometimes even years. And we've been in situations where by the time they start their RFI, RFP, procurement, negotiation, all that stuff, there's going to be 10 new applications available that didn't even exist when they started the process. On the flip side, actually, I was thinking as they were talking about enterprise adoption, public agencies being resource constrained are very conscious about spending the right amount of money on the right things and prioritizing what AI applications are going to get implemented, how much they're going to cost. What I do get surprised by is when companies are shocked when they see a bill of millions of dollars a month because they hadn't quite anticipated, what they were actually going to spend. Public agencies generally can't afford to do that. So, what enterprises could learn, I would think, is, governance is not sort of opposed. Just governance of AI isn't antithetical to innovation, right? So a lot of companies will jump into stuff because it's a new and shiny thing. They want to be more competitive, et cetera, and figure out the trust and governance issues later. Whereas in local government, you've got to think through, trust, governance, costs, obviously, first before you start, implementing AI, at least on a wide scale.
Gotcha. Any one thing each from each of you, if you're going to give a piece of advice to anyone in the audience who's just, using this technology in the context of their work, what is the one thing that they should be doing differently or more of to drive their AI use and literacy? Maddie?
That's a great question.
It's a bonus question, which
It
we
is
did
a
not
bonus
prep
question.
for.
I'm just trying to think of what I again, going back to the problem solving, because that's just how I like to talk about it, is like, what is the one thing that is of real kind of pain or like struggle in my day to day? And for me, because we're still relatively a small team, is trying to keep track of all the incoming and all the tasks. And so what I use Codex now is a kind of like a mini chief of staff, is I've set it up as a task so that every day at 6 a.m. or whatever it is, or at the end of the day, it will give me a list of all the Slack messages, emails, and other things, like summaries of meetings that I had and the do-outs that are still outstanding, and so that I have a concise list of things to check through versus having to go through my inbox and things like that. And so think about like usefulness to you. Like start there, and you'd be amazed by what you can find.
Henry?
Yeah, it's something similar. I think as we think about internal Google AI transformation, we often try to preach this product manager mindset. And it's based off of research that we did in studying different individuals and teams and how they were adopting AI. But where we really saw the most success is where people were first starting to think about, okay, what tasks or workflows in my day are really causing me grief, are taking a long time, And then from there, then understanding, okay, what tools are available to me, and then quickly getting into experimentation before trying to deploy and scale. And so that's a similar approach that our product managers also adopt in really trying to understand the problem and the user, in this case yourself, first in terms of what really, what is that, we call it drudgery, that you maybe want to get rid of in your day, and then starting there, and then hopefully that becomes a pattern shift or behavior shifts that just becomes more ingrained.
Jumby, what would you say? What would Jensen say?
Jensen would actually put your question into AI to start with. No, what, for me personally, and I'd say for a lot of our colleagues, the big mindset change is not to look at AI as a tool that says, okay, I have this issue, I need to summarize a meeting, I'm going to go AI to do this. I have this other issue where, I want to make something a little more efficient using AI. The change of mindset that is starting to happen is let AI figure that out. Ask AI, what should I be paying attention to? What do you think I should use you for? This is what my this is what my life looks like. And I'll give you an example of that. Many months ago when we first had a demo of one of these, AI agents, the person who was doing the demo said, forget all this AI agent stuff, let's just have a chat. And he obviously had the audio turned on. So he asked me about my business, he asked me what we do day to day, we asked me how big the teams are, what kind of agencies we work with, blah, blah, blah. Just a long conversation. It was great. I was like, for the first time, I was thinking through all these things, explaining everything. And then he turned to the AI agent and said, hey, based on everything you've heard, just make a really nice dashboard that would be interesting to actually track all the stuff that Jumby's interested in.
Yeah.
Just based on that conversation. And I wasn't thinking, okay, I'll tell him this, so then we could probably use AI for something I do here, something I do there. It was just AI actually understanding what you need and then providing you the solution for what it thinks you need. That change of mindset is starting to happen.
Yeah, if you're not doing it already, one thing that's pretty fun for me is we all have Bluetooth in our car. We all have a mobile phone. We probably either have Gemini or OpenAI applications on that, and they all have voice activation. And you can actually hit the button once and just have a conversation. You can interrupt it. You can do whatever. So throw it on in your car on your drive to wherever next time, and just have a conversation about whatever. And it's going to learn about you. You're going to learn about what it's capable of, and it's going to track those conversations, and it can do things for you. And you don't even have to sit at your computer and put hands on keyboard to get an incredible amount of value out of this technology. Lightning round. We have 2 minutes to go. The speed at which all this is happening, nobody can keep track. I'm using AI to keep track of AI because it's just it's so outrageous. Literally every day, the models are one's going over the other. There's this new harnessing coming out, new capabilities, and so on and so forth. Where is it all going over the next 6 to 12 months? What really excites you? And what are your predictions of where we're going? Maddie, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that at least for the average user, they're going to go from using AI sporadically to AI embedded into workflows and more into their day-to-day. I think from a capability standpoint, we're going to see a lot more capabilities out of agents. Agents will be better understanding context, at working across systems, at working with each other. And I know that sounds really crazy until you start experimenting with it, but I think that's going to unlock a lot of opportunity for people.
Okay, well, my agent will call your agent after this. We'll have Jumby, what's your point of view?
So, the thing I find most exciting is the ability for AI to simulate and predict the future. For example, in the physical AI world, the ability to actually create digital twins and to run scenarios. AI is really good at that by analyzing a lot of data that you already have, by analyzing situations, by analyzing what might happen in the future. So, for example, if you do a new development and you want to see how traffic changes, you can actually show people in the digital twin rather than giving them a 300-page traffic impact analysis report, which is much more compelling. So,
Henry?
I think everyone will be a manager of agents, and I think what that means is a different way of interaction with these tools. For example, I don't know if it's noon, but every Friday at noon I have this agent running. And so we'll go automatically look back at my week through my calendar, through my emails, and through all my notes. Because every Friday we have to submit a weekly updates that gets cascaded across the organization. It's one of my least favorite activities. I would always procrastinate it and actually do it on Sunday night. And now every Friday I have this agent running, and so it does it at 12. I'll supervise it and look it over by 2 p.m. But what that entails is I think people will have more and more of these agents running, and so like a good manager would do, you're having to really provide clear instructions, delegating, I think iterating along the way, and I think that's a different way of interacting with AI maybe than we've been used to.
Well, guys, thank you very much. We're out of time. That was an amazing conversation, and big round of applause for the panel.
What an insightful conversation. One thing stood out to me throughout the discussion. None of the speakers were obsessed with AI itself. They were obsessed with solving problems. That distinction is incredibly important. Let me leave you with 6 lessons that every engineer and entrepreneur at BNDF should remember. One thing you should never forget is that AI is a tool, not the goal. Many people ask, how can I use AI? The better question is, what problem am I trying to solve? Every speaker returns to these same ideas, whether it is customer service, education, government, or business. AI only creates value when it is solves meaningful problems. Technology without purpose is simply technology. AI creates builder, not just user. One of my favorite ideas from discussion was that AI is transforming ordinary people into creators. You no longer need to be an expert programmer to build useful applications that change everything, right? Small businesses, children, teachers, entrepreneurs can now transform ideas into working solutions much faster than before. The future belongs now to builder. The next lesson is AI should create value, not just reduce costs. One statement really stood out. The companies succeeding with AI are not asking how many employees can we replace. They are asking, how can we create a better experience for our customer? That is the entrepreneurial mindset. Businesses grow by creating value. Cost reduction is important, but innovation creates competitive advantage. The next lesson is AI literacy is becoming a core engineering skill. In the past, engineers learned programming language. Today, we must also learn how to collaborate with AI. Prompting, critical thinking, verification, workflow design, and managing AI agent. Learning AI is no longer optional. It is becoming part of engineering literacy. The next lesson is engineer must think like product manager. This discussion reinforces something I strongly believe. Great engineers don't begin with code. They begin with understanding the user. Before building anything, ask this question. What frustration am I solving? What process wastes time? What could become dramatically simple? Technology follows good problem definition. And the last lesson is, the future is human plus AI. Perhaps the biggest misconception about AI is that human will disappear from the process. The opposite is happening. Humans are becoming supervisor, decision maker, designer, and orchestration of intelligent systems. Tomorrow's professionals will not compete against AI. They will manage teams that include AI agents working alongside people. That require leadership, right? Communication, ethics, and sound engineer judgment. Right? I want to leave you with one final thought. Every major technological revolution changed the tool we use, but it also changed the skill that matter most. Today, anyone can access powerful AI system. What does that mean? It means that technology is becoming more accessible. What will distinguish great engineer and entrepreneur is no longer access to tool. It is the ability to identify meaningful problems, ask better questions, make wise decisions, and build solutions that improve people's life. At BNDF Institute, our mission is not simply to teach technology. It is to develop engineers who think critically, innovate responsibly, and build products that create lasting impact. Thank you for joining us for another edition of BNDF Innovation Lab. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode, where we will continue learning from the world's leading innovators and translating their ideas into practical lessons for engineers and entrepreneurs. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you get some value from this episode. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like. And don't forget to leave a comment to let us know what you think about it. Have an amazing day.